Hey folks, stepping outside here between meetings on a almost fall-like day here in the Northeast. I want to share with you a video between myself and a great thought leader, Apollo Lopescu, that discusses the topic of energy and how we view investing in energy for our clients. I hope you enjoy. Apollo, a lot of discussions around energy stocks, in places like where you are, California, they're mandating no more combustion engines by a certain time period. So with that said, renewable energy, solar energy, electric cars, how do you feel? How does Dimensional view investing in energy stocks at this time?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because energy stocks have been on the news. And in fact, you looked last year and you had the energy sector as a whole had a remarkable performance. I think the sector was up about 60 something percent last year in 2022. And a lot of folks are saying, well, what about these energy stocks? Should we be paying more attention to them, even as we have this transition? Well, what about solar? Because that seems like that's where the world is going. Be like Gretzky, I don't want to chase where the puck used to be, but where it's going next. So what's interesting, Greg, is that energy stocks, in our opinion, should be part of a portfolio. Unless somebody has some very specific preferences in the way they invest. They want to align their views on sustainability, for example, with their investment portfolio. And for those folks, it's possible that some energy stocks might or might not make sense. But for the general public, I do believe that energy stocks are part of the market and they ought to be part of a portfolio, part of a diversified portfolio. And here's why. You had a year like 2020. Remember 2020, we had this pandemic and the world stood still. And energy producers realized that it's more expensive for them to stop producing oil than to keep producing, even though we're not using much of it. And because of that, about 3 years ago, roughly about this time of year, 3 years ago, we had a very interesting situation where these producers kept pumping oil and there was nobody to buy it. And at some point, all the storage facilities got full. And for a short while, we had a very paradoxical situation where the price of oil became negative. Meaning that you didn't have to pay to get oil. You got paid to get oil. So what we see today is a very expensive commodity. 3 years ago, not 30 years ago, you actually could get it for free and even get paid to get oil. So at the time, a lot of folks are saying, well, maybe I shouldn't put money into those. Maybe I should put money in technology stocks because those are flying high. And that is absolutely true. Technology stocks are flying very high. Now, fast forward to 2022, 2 years later, what you saw is that technology stock dropped by over 20%, whereas the energy stocks were up 60%. So to me, when I look at these energy stocks, a lot of it is about being diversified and being disciplined. Because if you had told somebody 3 years ago that energy stocks would be the high flyers in 2022, they would have said, you're nuts. You're nuts. Mm-hmm. Technology is flying. So that's why we do think that it's not worth placing bets onto these sectors. So that's my first point. You should be diversified, and there's so much evidence for that. But secondly, if you are looking at the technologies of the future, whether it's solar, whether it's electric cars, all of these, it turns out that it's not just about owning them, but also how much are you paying to own them. And if everybody knows that that's where the future is, that's where the puck is going, everybody's going to chase the same puck. So it's going to be crowded. And by the time you get to buy these stocks, it's going to be expensive. And that's exactly what a lot of these folks are doing. They're seeing that what it seemed like such a big market, such a big potential, it actually got very crowded. And the price at which you buy these doesn't actually bode well for investors because your returns are not going to be as high if prices are high as well. And I think the poster child for this is a few years ago, Greg, and I'm not going to suggest anything more than just pay attention to history. It was the cannabis industry. Everybody was buying, let's get in the cannabis industry. And it seemed like the sky's the limit. It can get as high as possible. And it turns out that by the time people got in, prices were so high that nobody really made that much money as an investor in that business because they bought at such a high price. So I want to caution people not to chase what seems so obvious, because if it is so obvious, chances are the prices are already high.
Well, listen, that just plays to what we do when we talk to portfolio managers at Dimensional. Listen to your insight from your investment team is they use science, they use history, and just like you're talking about, Apollo, what we don't get caught up in, what everybody doesn't get caught up is trying to guess the next best thing. And with the global exposure of your investment professionals, they are there on the ground, boots on the ground, as I call it, seeing the opportunities that exist, and they're ahead of the puck in some ways. So that's a perfect
Absolutely.
example. Perfect example. Thank you.